Welcome to Pearls ng Austin, a virtual Pista. My name is Bianca Soymayagua Galvan, the event coordinator at the Asian American Resource Center. The Asian American Resource Center is a City of Austin cultural facility within the Parks and Recreation Department and Museums and Cultural Programs Division. The AARC mission is to provide spaces, resources, programs, and services through an Asian American Pacific Islander perspective. We are excited to have you join us for today's collaborative event between the Austin Filipino American Association, the Austin History Center, and the Asian American Resource Center. The event today will showcase the Pearls ng Austin exhibit, which features cultural objects from the Austin Filipino American Association and archival photographs and documents from the Austin History Center. In addition, we will talk about the Fran Flaherty Colonized Women exhibit and combine all of this into a virtual Pista, which is a celebration of all Filipino culture. We hope you enjoyed today's event, and we ask that you complete the AARC survey at the end to share your feedback and tell us how you enjoyed the event. Thank you to all of the staff and the collaborators who made this event possible today. Enjoy.
Good afternoon to one and all. Today is a proud day for all of us, despite of the unprecedented times that caused a profound effects on our lives. I thank everyone of celebrating Perlas ng Austin, a virtual Pista. Pista Sanayan started in Austin 32 years ago, out of a desire to express our Pinoy cultural pride, hospitality, and to bring people from all regions to celebrate as one. It is a lovely expression of our culture and traditions, showcasing the very best of being Pinoy. It is an annual event featuring folk dancers from different regions, entertainment, food, arts and crafts, and activities for all ages. I appreciate the support in this event from the following Phil-Am organizations: Austin Filipino American Association, or AFAA, Filipino Austin Youth, Filipino Young Professionals, Filipino American Catholic Community of Austin, Peace Light Group of Central Texas, and the River Life Church Group. Again, from our comfort of your home, enjoy the presentation of the Perlas ng Austin, a virtual Pista event. Maraming salamat po. Jerry Villaverde po ng AFAA.
My name is Ruben Garcia, co-MC of this event. Today, under the backdrop of this ongoing pandemic, it is important to remember a simple advice from Dr. Seuss. When something bad happens, you have three choices. You can either let it define you, let it destroy you, or you can let it strengthen you. This virtual event showcasing the Filipino culture strengthens us and keeps us together during these trying times.
My name is Susan Pfeiffer, and I'm co-emceeing together with Ruben Garcia. We're going to showcase to you today the Filipino culture in Central Texas. Yes, we do have a viable organization here in Austin, and we present programs and events culturally depicting our heritage. And one of the most important things that we do for this also is to educate our third and fourth generation Filipino children so they can have their roots about the Philippine culture. And we do have these programs presented to you today, and I hope you'll enjoy it.
This event would not have been possible without considerable team effort from the following organizations: Asian American Resource Center, the Austin History Center, and the Austin Filipino American Association.
Like any other organizations, the Austin Filipino American Association started also from a small group. They get together for parties like holidays, birthdays, and so forth. And one day, they just find themselves having an association. And to make it register, so that they got a nonprofit status, 501c4 organization. But I would like to get a credit to Sonny Graham as the founder of this, of the AFAA. There she started a little bit organization with a small group of people, and now the AFAA. She now lives in Fort Worth, Texas, where they have a bed and breakfast company over at the outskirts of Arlington, University of Texas. She's a proud parent of 2 beautiful children and 3 beautiful grandchildren. So she's a Lola. Over the years, since 1987, the Austin Filipino American Association has produced numerous cultural events. And to better document our programs, we reach out to the Austin History Archive program. Here's to tell us about the archive program is Aisha Khan. She is the Austin Asian Community Archivist.
Hello, my name is Aisha Khan, and I am the Asian American Community Archivist at the Austin History Center, which is the historical division of the Austin Public Library and the official archive for the city of Austin. My role as a community archivist is to work with longtime Asian community members and organizations to collect, preserve, and share the vibrant and diverse history of the Asian American experience in Austin. Our collections range from family papers of the earliest Chinese settlers in the city, to oral histories with local Asian American activists, to organizational records from longtime community organizations like the Austin Filipino American Association, who donated their archive to the Austin History Center in 2011. The photographs, marketing material, and other documents from this collection served as the foundation for the Perlas ng Austin exhibit, which I'm really excited to say that you can now experience virtually from the comfort of your home. I'm also really excited to be here for this virtual Pista with longtime Filipino community member and organizer Susan Pfeiffer, who was instrumental in not only curating this year's exhibit, but also gathering the early Filipino archives of AFAA, as well as her own family's story. So thank you, Susan, so much for being here with us today. So we're going to get started by giving you a taste of sort of what an oral history would be like when you want to contribute your story to the Austin History Center. So we thought that we would start by not only grounding ourselves in the evolution of AFAA as an organization, but wanted to learn a little bit about you, Susan, and your story. So we thought I was going to ask if you could start by sharing a little bit about your journey to the United States and sort of what brought you to Austin for the first time.
Sure. Well, I was a former Susan Tolentino. I was born in Leganes, Iloilo, Philippines. I went to college in the Central Philippine University in Iloilo City and got my nursing degree in Bachelor of Science in Nursing in 1974. And as you know, nurses can go everywhere. So that's why I became a nurse, because it is a profession that is needed everywhere. And we have to do 2 years of community service required by the government in the Philippines before we can even go to private employment. But in 1976, there was an ad in the paper that an agency was going to the Philippines in Manila to interview nurses for a possible job overseas to Canada, Germany, and America. I said, yes, that's where I want to go. So this agency got us interviewed, and I was lucky enough to be selected to go to Texas. So Texas, here I came. And that was in September 1976 when I came as a nurse contract worker under an H-1 visa. When I got to Texas, a hospital there called Innis Municipal Hospital is where I ended up with. And it's a 50-bed hospital about 30 miles south of Dallas. And when I got there, there was already a Filipino nurse there. And she was lonely, and she wanted to go back. She wanted to go to California where her aunt was. But the administrator said, no, you can't, because you have a contract with us. So they end up going back to the Philippines and got a company for me for another Filipina. And that's where I came into Innis, Texas. I ended up working with them for about 3 or 4 years until they got my permanent status changed to permanent resident. And I met my husband there, John, and we moved in 1979. We moved to Georgetown, Texas, where he got a job as a assistant manager for Piggly Wiggly grocery store. And I started working there as a nurse. But after a year in 1980, he got a better offer job in a Tom Thumb grocery store, a bigger store. Now I believe it's Randall's. And we moved to Austin. That's how we got to Austin. I started working at Teed Medical Center right away, and because they needed me to work right away, they have a shortage of nurses there too. And there was a no Filipino there at the hospital. I was the first Filipino nurse in that hospital, and but ended up working there for 35 years. But about 12 years of my working there, they had an award for a Nurse of the Year award, and it was a good feeling for your colleagues to recognize you for your expertise and your dedication to your work. And that was good. In 2008, there were still shortages of nurses all over the United States, and of course, Seton and Austin is not spared for that. So our administration said, well, maybe we could recruit nurses in the Philippines. And he said, we'll ask Susan to help us. So we went to the Philippines together with my 2 hiring managers, and we hired 55 nurses. And in the course of 5 years, we were able to put a gap of that shortage in Austin. And I worked at the medical surgical field and there at Seton. And in the last 10 years of my service, I was the stroke coordinator of Brackenridge Hospital and Seton Medical Center. And we ended up having a great certification program, and we are certified as a stroke center. And now I retired in 2015, and happily a retired nurse, and have a happy 2 beautiful grandkids, 2 boys, and now I can spend some life with my family.
That's
and
great.
My husband.
Yeah. And so that's amazing. And so I know you mentioned that, you know, when you got to Austin, you were the only Filipino at your workplace, but how did you start to connect with other Filipino community members in Austin and eventually become involved with the Austin Filipino American Association?
Yeah, when I first came in 1980, like I said, I have not seen of any Filipino in Austin. But around towards the early 1988, I met Sonny Graham and Abe Chavez at St. Louis Catholic Church. So they invited me to go to their gatherings, and eventually I fell in love with the community, Filipino community, and I recruited some members to be officers. And then with them, we developed a team of officers that developed numerous programs, family-oriented programs for the Filipino community to engage in. And until this day, we still have these programs developed here and also presented in Austin. So that little gathering that we have with AFAA, that's where we started with the AFAA. And I also became a past president of AFAA. And one great thing that I have done also for the AFAA, I elevated the presence of Filipinos here in Austin, and we became a member of the network of Asian American organizations, in which it has like 15 Asian ethnic groups from Cambodian, Chinese, Vietnamese, and 15 organizations member, and of course AFAA. And collectively, as Asians, we had a voice for Asians in the Austin community. And eventually, I actually became also the president of NAO. And that was a great thing that happened to Austin for AFAA.
And they played an instrumental role in creating the Asian American Resource Center, right?
Yes, when I was the president, I was one of the instrumental figure that we lobbied and tried to create this Asian American Resource Center. And every year we're still having improvement to this center, and hopefully we could develop more programs and have a bigger place where we could have all the Asian groups perform and congregate.
That's wonderful. And so you've been so active in the community. You've been president of 2 organizations. During that time, what do you think have been some of your proudest moments just working with the Filipino community? I know you mentioned a couple, but were there any other personal proud moments during your time here in Austin?
Yeah, because the AFAA is not just a social group. We also have a mission to help Filipinos here and abroad. And we have a catastrophic event in 2013 where we had a super typhoon Haiyan. So the community really quickly get together and raise some funds, and we were able to donate some money to the American Red Cross, and also send some goods to the people of Tacloban and Leyte, where those are places that was really stricken with this typhoon. And we knew that we had to move quick because those aids that we are sending them is essential for their survival. And the sooner the better that we're going to do that. So that was really, I feel great about that we're able to help our countrymen in the signs of a disaster. And that was the proudest moment of most of our Filipinos here in Austin, especially the AFAA, to do something like that.
That's great. Thank you so much, Susan, for just sharing a little bit with us today, but also donating your history to the Austin History Center. It's really valuable to have these community stories to share about what the community was like, in the early 80s, and see how it's evolved to today. So for all of you who are watching this program, if you're interested in sharing your own immigration story or piece of local Asian American history with the Austin History Center, please don't hesitate to contact me. My name's Aisha Khan again, and you can learn more about our Asian American Community Archives program at www.austinhistorycenter.org, and you can also check out that virtual exhibit on our website as well. So thank you very much, and I hope everyone enjoys the rest of our program. And thank you, Susan.
It was my pleasure, Aisha.
In early April, the AARC featured the Filipino community in Central Texas with an exhibit called Perlas ng Austin. Installation of the exhibits were completed. However, the facility was closed due to the pandemic before the public had a chance to see the exhibits. Here to tell you more about Perlas ng Austin is Rachel Stewart, the AARC exhibit coordinator. In addition, Tony will be talking with Rachel about the exhibit.
Hi everyone, my name is Rachel Stewart Chabra, and I am the exhibit specialist at Asian American Resource Center. And what that means is I have the privilege and the joy of managing our exhibits program. And we're here to talk about a very special exhibit today. It's an exhibit that we produced in-house in collaboration with Austin Filipino American Association and Austin History Center. So part of this exhibit was working with Austin Filipino American Association to put together a collection of cultural objects from the collections and the possessions of the community that could be used to tell the story of Filipino culture here in Austin. So I'm here today with Tony Sensei Carpio. She was one of the community curators from Austin Filipino Association who helped put together this great exhibit. Her and Susan Pfeiffer worked together on it. And we're going to have a little bit of a discussion about some of the items that are in the exhibit. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen here so that y'all can see the slides that we're looking at. and begin asking Tony some questions about this great exhibit. All right, Tony. So back in January and February of this year, you, me, Aisha from Austin History Center, and Susan got together to work on an exhibit of cultural and historical items that belong to Austin's Filipino American community. You gathered together about 65 items, as you can see in the picture here. Here's a view of how the exhibit looks with the roughly 65 items that you chose for this exhibit. And today we're going to talk about just a small selection of some items to focus on. But before we start that, tell us a little bit about how you decided what to include in this exhibit and who you asked to borrow from.
Oh, okay. So the exhibit was named The Filipinos, Perlas ng Austin. Perlas means pearl. And the term Pearl of the Orient or Pearl of the Orient Seas was originally used to describe the Philippines by a Spanish Jesuit priest named Juan Jose Delgado. And in the Philippines, the golden South Sea pearl is our national gem. They're our highly prized wonder of nature from our tropical shores that symbolizes the embodiment of the country's tradition and culture. And also pearls evoke elegance and distinction, and pearl symbolizes integrity and loyalty, just like Filipinos. So I chose the items in the exhibit to represent our rich cultural heritage and also an expression of Filipino pride. I found the photos of prominent Filipinos from Austin in different fields, such as business owners, doctors, nurses, lawyers, and even a religious affiliation. And I'm also very grateful to those people who have collected, preserved, and shared their wide selection of objects, wood carvings, books, and each piece drips with history.
Well, thanks so much for all of those folks who contributed, and thanks to Bernadette for helping support this exhibit. It is a really wonderful collection of objects, and I want to thank the community so much for bringing them to the AARC and loaning them to us. One of the things that really stood out to me as I was working on this exhibit and looking at the objects is this collection of Filipino Barbie dolls, and it was among a collection of toys. There were all sorts of toys, but we picked to highlight this group of Barbie dolls, and I'm wondering, why did you decide to include the Barbies?
Well, the Filipinos here in Austin are geographically different in the Philippines. So the Filipinos are divided geographically and culturally into regions, and each regional group is recognizable by distinct traits, dialects, and attire. So I'd like to exhibit that richness and diversity of the Philippine culture, and each region of the Philippines has its own distinct traditional clothing. And that's the reason we have those Barbie dolls with different costumes. And the Filipino national costume is rather colorful, ornate, and beautiful. And people lived under the occupation of other countries for centuries. That's why our national attire was formed under the influence of different cultures too, and got some of their features. Like the US, Spain, and Japan had the biggest impact on the traditional clothing of the Philippines. But nevertheless, the Filipino folk dress is very unique, authentic, and even tribal.
I see, and as I look at this group of 5, I can see that what they're wearing is definitely very varied, a lot of different colors, textures, patterns, materials. So let's take a look in a little in depth some more at some of the Barbies individually.
Yes, this is most lowland people in the Visayas region wear the typical kimono. The kimono is the top part with a matching knee-length skirt. It could be a knee length or it could be like longer ankle length. The kimono is typically transparent with its typical clothing made out of pineapple fiber.
One of the things that I notice about this outfit and some of the other photos of Filipino fashions that I've seen at the exhibit is the large sort of puffy sleeves. And I'm wondering if you could talk about that aspect of the outfit a little bit.
Okay, the puffy sleeves. It's actually called the butterfly sleeves. And the butterfly sleeves, I think it's because of the weather in the Philippines too. It's kind of hot and humid. It has to be a little make it cooler for the air to flow. It's funny, but it is practical. Yes, this one is actually a female version of a barong Tagalog. Uh, the barong Tagalog is an official national costume for Filipino men. The upper garment of this lady here, or Barbie, has some intricate embroidery, and the men's costume also has that embroidery. But with this one, they just made it into a lady's version of that type of men's costume. This is another popular garment in the Philippines. It's a dress called terno. It evolved from a baro at saya, but turned into a dress. So baro is the top and saya is the bottom. This one has the butterfly sleeves, again, the same as the other Barbie. And it's always long, so it's always like a gown. And it's usually used for special occasions. And it's no secret, it's all in the sleeves. When it's perfectly on the shoulders, the wearer simply oozes pure confidence, feminine fierceness, and indescribable power, like the Filipinas.
There's also a collection of books that are in the display. And one of them is this cookbook. Could you tell us about why this book made it in?
Yes, because there is no Filipino gathering, big or small, where food does not play a starring role. Whether it's held in a restaurant or at a home, the host makes sure that the guests are warmly welcomed, well entertained, and generously served with carefully selected dishes to suit the occasion. And guests are treated like family when they come to our homes. And this is why Filipinos are known for their hospitality. Our generosity and friendliness toward foreigners and fellow Filipinos alike are traits that are deeply entrenched in our culture.
So our next one that we're going to talk about, and this is the final one we're going to talk about today, is this flyer, and it says, it appears to be for a music competition, and it says Austin Pinoy Idol. So could you tell us about what Austin Pinoy Idol is?
Pinoy is a slang for Filipinos. So, and one of the reasons we are one of the happiest people in the world is because we just can easily find contentment without the finer things in life. One of which is grabbing a mic and just singing. And it is an understatement to say that Filipinos love karaoke. Filipinos love to sing. And almost all of the households spend their leisure time singing on the karaoke. So it's also called videoke. So the Filipinos have been into competitive singing for quite a while. It has been said that before American Idol or X Factor or any other franchise talent competitions, we already had our versions of those in our local barrios. Barrios are little towns in the Philippines. So, and that's no exaggeration. I remember having, even in school, singing competitions between different grade levels. So, and also, as I said, the Pinoy is a slang word for Filipinos. And it's just the specific event that was done by AFAA. It's just a smaller and local scale version of American Idol.
Well, wonderful. Thanks for describing that. That competition just sounds very fun and just sounds like very, very artistic. So that concludes our interview today about this wonderful exhibit. Thank you so much, Tony, for joining us here. And thank you to everybody who's at home watching.
It is an understatement to say that Filipinos love karaoke. Filipinos love to sing. Our singer is a pure Filipino at heart, but served in the United States Air Force, business owner and operator of Alpha Blade Salon, and also a tenor with the Austin Gay Men Chorus. And here we have Alfonso Lucin.
Sana maulit muli ang mga oras nating nakaraan. Bakit nagkaganito? Naglaho nga ba ang pag-ibig mo? Sana maulit muli. Sana'y bigyan ng pansin ang himig ko. Kahapon, bukas, ngayon. Tanging wala nang ibang mahal. Kung kaya kong iwanan ka, di na sana sapa. Kung kaya kong umiwas na, di na sana sapa. Kung kaya ko sana. Sandaling di mapapantayan, huwag sana nating itapon pagmamahal na tapat. Kung ako'y nagkamali minsan, hindi na ba mapagbibigyan o kung iwanan ka, di na sana asa pa. Kung kaya kong umiwas na, di na sana lalapit pa. Kung kaya ko sana, ito ang tanging nais ko, ang ating kahapon. Sana maulit muli. Di na sana sapa. Iwas na, di na sana lalapit pa. Kung kaya kong iwanan ka, di na sana asa pa. Di na sana lalapit pa. Kung mahal pa rin kita, o giliw, o
Asian American Resource Center presents Fran Flowerty, Colonized Women, Reclaiming Our Indigenous Roots. On August 18, 2020, Filipino American artist Fran Flowerty met with Asian American Resource Center's exhibit specialist Rachel Stewart Chabra to talk about her exhibit Colonized Women and the community-sourced art project Reclaiming Our Indigenous Roots.
I am Fran. Catherine Ledonio is my maiden name, Flaherty. And I live in Pittsburgh. I have 3 children, 3 sons, and 1 grandson. I live in north of Pittsburgh with my husband, my youngest son, and my hearing dog, Olympia. I'm deaf.
Describe how you came up with the colonized women and men pieces and your artistic process. What are some decisions that you made on them, and what do they signify?
We have to admit colonization into and what it's done, what it's colonization's contribution to our present culture. And so I've been thinking about that. And like I said, I read the Boxer Codex from front to back because I was very interested in the history. And it has these beautiful, beautiful drawings of what indigenous Filipinos would look like. And I just, there's so many pages of them. And this book, by the way, the original codex is available online via the Lilly Library at Indiana University. Anybody can download it and see the images. And I realize as I'm reading this book and looking at the images that these are the first images, the first stereotypes of Filipinos all over the world, in Europe. That didn't really sit well with me. And I said to myself, well, what can I do to make it feel better? When I read this book, I want to feel better. It was kind of a selfish project. I want to feel better when I look at these images. And so I decided I would take these images, I'd copy them and rearrange them to the way I wanted it. That's the way I wanted my ancestors to be presented to the world. Not in other people's terms, but my terms. So I started drawing them and added different flora and fauna from my childhood. I also added a few other elements from the codex in there. But the biggest thing was like putting them on silk, which is a very rich fabric. It's still now it's pretty expensive. It is a symbol of nobility and beauty. And I wanted the girls to be presented that way. And so when it came to the men, I wanted to really drop all of that voyeurism and let them be there, let them live within their flora and fauna. There's definitely different composition when it came to the men, but it wasn't because I'm treating the men differently than the women. It was more of like the practice was evolving to actually even extend it further beyond the Philippine archaeology, the Philippine anthropology of it. The Boxer Codex is mostly about the Philippines, but if you really read the whole thing, they traveled along that area and moved into Siam, which is now Thailand, Japan, China, Malaysia, and all sorts of different places. So, I mean, it documented this entire sort of Southeast Asian area. This is our story now. I'm going to take this, and this will be my story now. And so I've had some critics come up to me and say, well, you're just copying what somebody from the 15th century did. And yes, in a way. I mean, because that's what I'm doing. But I'm not copying it, I'm reclaiming it. And if we think about that in modern terms, right? When you make a sketch of something, when you make a sketch of a portrait of somebody, the artist has an ability to include part of themselves into whatever they're making. And that's what I've done.
Let's talk about the community-sourced mural that you're putting together with submissions from the public. Describe how you arrived at the concept for this community project titled Reclaiming Our Indigenous Roots.
As I'm reclaiming all of these images for my work, for my personal work, and my body of work, I've been getting feedback from many people, from Filipino Americans, Asian Americans, who look at my work and say, oh yeah, I really relate to that. I can really relate to that. And somewhere within a year or two, of completing this part, part A of the work, I realized that it shouldn't just be me reclaiming. It's just we all should be reclaiming our indigenous roots, whether it's, Asian American Asian roots or European roots or whatever. We really need to connect to our history in order to understand where we're moving forward. In Filipino, there's a saying, ang hindi lumingon sa pinanggalingan ay hindi makakarating sa kinaroroonan, which means if you don't look back to where you came from, you're never going to get to where you want to go. I felt that was important, especially for young people who were born in this country, who don't really have a physical connection to their home country, to their homeland. It's sort of like abstract. It's really important for us to have that physical connection. And when things are so abstract, right, and home country is so far and you can't quite wrap your head around it, that's where art and music come in to help bridge that gap. And I want this to continue. I want this even after we've done our workshop. I want to be able to go to other places and say, all right, everybody, let's reclaim our roots and let's put them up in a banner and let's make art about it.
Please describe what your vision for the resulting piece or the resulting mural will look like, and describe an ideal community submission.
You know those Where's Waldo things, where there's just like saturated with people and then you gotta find Waldo? Well, I want everyone to be Waldo and be able to find their work amongst this collection of things and see the oneness and your individuality in that oneness. My ideal community submission would be if each family member families put in a project together. Maybe they'll put their own families. Maybe they'll have collaborative projects with each other. I really want to foster communication and cooperation and care in this. So if you have a child making a collage, doing a reclamation, join them. Either join them with their piece or make your own reclamation while you're sitting with your child.
Do you have any examples, tips, or suggestions to share with folks who want to participate in the activity and submit a piece?
What I want people to do is to just put yourselves into it. Make it your own work. Make it your drawing. So for example, I have this guy, I printed him out, I cut him out, and these pearls were pearls that I had made my own veil on my wedding day. I've had them for 24 years. And I'm like, I need to use them and it's some artwork. And so these are like leftover scarves. I have this love-hate relationship with apple juice and apples. They were so expensive when we were growing up in the Philippines. And it was just so hard to get. But then I moved here and I had my children. My children drink them like there's no tomorrow. And I have an apple tree in my yard. This thing that was so valuable to me as growing up is abundant now. And it all about whomever's making it, right? So if you guys are out there making this, make it about you. Reclaim it and really put your own things into it, whatever it is. There's no wrong, there's no right, no wrong, there's no aesthetic that we're going for. Just go ahead, look at the people, look at what's in the coloring book, and decide what moves you. I don't want people to walk away from the project with their fist up, like defending their indigenous roots or, no, that's not what this is about. This is about walking away from the project with your arms and your heart open to welcome what other people's thoughts are. You may or may not agree with those thoughts, but I would like people to just have a little bit of openness. Ask questions. I want it to be thoughtful. I want people to think about putting themselves into their work, walking around their houses and looking at things that they would otherwise discard and turning them into art. Let's free the meaning of what art is, because European Western art is a colonized version of culture. The way we imagine, art as in oil paintings to be put in museums, viewed from 6 feet, 7 feet, 10 feet away where security guards are. I understand that that's sort of like the stereotype of most people think about it, art. And to understand that art is about process, art is about having different aesthetics. It's about being able to express yourself, your creativity, and there's no right or wrong to it. Art's about taking chances and putting things together and figuring out what works for you and who you're teaching and your children, things like that. So I would say go for it, think about it, take chances.
Produced by Asian American Resource Center and Fran Flaherty. www.tiny.cc/colonized_women_2020. franflaherty.com.
We held our very first Pista in 1998 at Fiesta Gardens in Austin. It was a well-attended event with close to 1,000 people. This event was done in collaboration with the Austin Pacific Islanders Group of Central Texas. Every town in the Philippines, no matter how big or small, holds a fiesta. That would be Pista in our vernacular. Traditionally, the fiesta is a celebration to express gratitude for a good harvest in honor of the town's patron saint. For many Filipinos, fiestas are an important part of our lives because of the miraculous power of the saints. It is believed that the saints are responsible for all the good fortune and favor one receives during the course of the year. The fiesta is characterized by parades and religious processions. It is a time where townspeople open their doors to everyone and heaps of food are served. It is a time for homecomings as people working in the big cities go back to their towns to partake in this annual event. AFAA has celebrated Pista just like in the Philippines. The Austin American Resource Center, where we usually hold the event, is decorated with colorful pennants called banderitas, hung around the festival grounds much like in the Philippines. Sumptuous Filipino cuisine such as chicken adobo, pancit, siopao, and our famous egg rolls called lumpia are some of the genuine delicacies served during the fiesta. And for dessert, different types of puto, a steamed rice cake, turon, a sweet banana fritter, and leche flan are not to be missed. Dancers in native costumes regale the crowds with their versions of our world-famous folk dances, such as tinikling, pandango sa ilaw, and itik-itik. Pista brings together all that the Filipino culture has to offer in a milieu of authentic food, songs, dances, and costumes.
Another event we had was the Flores de Mayo, Spanish for Flowers of May. It is a religious event celebrated each year in May. It's a very colorful religious event. Philippines is actually under the colonization of Spain for many, many years, and some Spanish tradition was passed along to continue for the Filipinos. One of the tradition is the Flores de Mayo. Flores de Mayo actually commemorates the founding of True Holy Cross by Queen Helena, Reina Elena of Constantinople. After the Holy Cross was found, there was a joyful celebration of Thanksgiving. Flowers are offered to Virgin Mary with the children including beautiful flowers. The event ends with the Santa Cruzan, a procession of princesses with their flowers decorated arches offering to the Virgin Mary. This event, we have held it a few times at the steps of the Capitol and also at the Austin American Resource Center. The event starts with a procession with the kids, they call it Ave Maria, with the flowers for offering to the Virgin Mary. They are so cute, beautiful kids joining in the parade, and then followed by the princess's court. It starts with Reina Imperatriz, and then Reina Faye, Reina Flores, Reina Paz, and then end up with the real queen, Reina Elena. So they go on to go to the court, and during the celebration, they have offered the court, the Queen Helena court, dances, folk dancing, celebration of games, and also festivities of food legacy. And that was an event that is a family event enjoyed by everybody. And the beauty of this event, the Santa Cruzan, is that the parents are really in teamwork with this. They decorated their arches with beautiful flowers. They even carried the arches for their children. Beautiful dresses. I don't even know if they sewed these dresses or it was bought, but it was gorgeous. And if one parent cannot do it, and other parent helps with the other parent to carry the arches. And they pass on and march towards the court and present as princesses. And that is our Flores de Mayo.
The demand for cultural dances throughout the year performed by our AFAA dancers has spawned the need for an AFAA dance troupe. Founded by Marites Johnston, the group's popularity soared with request appearances all over Austin, in schools, churches, other organizations, and community festivals. Maria Tway, the current coordinator of the AFAA dance troupe, will be showing you some of their featured dances.
Hi, I'm Maria Tway. I'm the coordinator for the AFAA dance group. Today we're presenting two dances. The first dance is the fan dance that originated from the southern island of Mindanao. And the second dance is the tinikling dance that originated from the island of Leyte. We hope you enjoyed today's presentation, and thanks for stopping by. Philippine dance plays an important role in Filipino culture in that it is one of the most visible expressions of Filipino beliefs and influences. Whether it be related to rituals for a good harvest, imitating movements of animals in nature, or celebrating stages of life, the dances of the Philippines contribute to the collective memory of Filipino culture and convey a vibrant representation of Filipino identity. The dances of the Philippines are reflected through four major ethnic groups: Igorot, Moro, Lumad, and Christianized Filipinos. Today we offer samples from the Moro and Christianized groups through the fan dance originating from Mindanao and the Tinikling dance originating from Leyte. The fan dance originated in the southern island of Mindanao from the Maranao people around Lake Lanao after the arrival of Muslim missionaries in the 13th century. This dance depicts the royal manner of walking called the pagapir, using small steps called kini-kini of the ladies of the royal court while gracefully manipulating fans called asper, usually performed to mark important events and display good upbringing. The Tinikling dance originated in Leyte, one of the central islands in the Visayas, during the Spanish colonial era. This dance is named after the tikling bird, belonging to the rail species of birds. The dance steps imitate the bird's graceful and quick movements as they walk between grass stems, run over branches, or dodge traps set by farmers. The dancers step around 2 or 4 pairs of bamboo poles that are struck together to mimic the movements of grasses, branches, and bamboo traps. This dance is often performed in celebrations and for important occasions. We hope you enjoy these videos and images of various dances performed by the AFAA dance group. We look forward to learning and performing more dances in the future, and we are always looking for new members to join us. If you are interested in joining the dance group, please contact us at afaaonline.org. Thank you.
The next Filipino artist to be recognized is Erwin Ballarda, a master of the Filipino martial art called arnis, also called kali or eskrima. Erwin Ballarda is the executive director of the Texas Police Association, a 501c3 association founded in 1895 with the main purpose of promoting professionalism in law enforcement. Ballarda was previously the executive vice president of Capital Strategic Operations. He is a self-defense expert in pikiti, tirsia kali, and various weapons. Ballarda has taught hand-to-hand combat and weapons tactics to the FBI, the Texas Highway Patrol, and various military personnel. He has been a bodyguard of George W. Bush and various celebrities. He was a lieutenant with the Texas Department of Public Safety, where he was the recruit school coordinator and defensive tactics coordinator for the training academy. He retired from the Texas DPS at the end of August 2008. He was former president of the Austin Filipino American Association and the executive director of the Texas Kali Association.
been my pleasure working with you, Ruben, for this production of our virtual event. Thank you so much. And we also would like to thank the Asian American Resource Center and the Austin History Center for collaborating this beautiful virtual event to offer you today.
It's been a pleasure as well working with you, Susan, as your co-MC. We hope that you enjoyed our presentation and look forward to the time again when we can showcase our colorful culture in more normal circumstances. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you for joining us for Pearls ng Austin, a virtual Pista. We hope you enjoyed the program this afternoon. To stay up to date with programs and events at the Asian American Resource Center, please sign up for our newsletter at austintexas.gov/AARC. And please fill out the survey. Your feedback is valuable to us. We look forward to the time when we can come together again for in-person events at the AARC. Have a wonderful afternoon.